hello. Welcome to the Monty Dean Show, number 3. I've made it 3 weeks. Huzzah! And of course, I had to. The sponsorships I've denied. Anyway, I've been joined by Melissa Hocking Hughes. How are you, Melissa?
Well, hello, Monty Dean. I'm so pleased to be on the Monty Dean Show.
Well, yeah, so I'm just going through my list of friends. Yeah. So
Lucky
it's
it's
good.
long and colourful.
Well, yeah, exactly, yes. So, because one thing I had the problem with of starting the show is now I've had to have a guest each week, and so panic. However, I'm doing so. It's been 3 weeks and no one's died, so everything's working out fine.
You've been doing radio for a long time. There was a lot of radio interviews with a lot of different people. I think you're going to manage. Maybe just go back through all the radio shows and call everyone again.
Well, maybe. See how we go. Now, for the customers, for the new listeners, you do like heaps weird stuff, eh? You've got a website called QBI Healing. Do you want to just quickly explain what QBI Healing is? The .com most people know, but what's the QBI part?
Yeah, look, a great way to find out about us is to go to qbihealing.com and have a look around there later on and just listen to us now.
Yeah.
But QBI Healing is Quantum Bioenergetics International was the original setup for the research and investigation into what became known to be a quantum community frequency that was somehow communicating through the human cell. Now, when I say back then and when it was called that, we're talking about 15 years ago that it was called that.
Yeah.
But the way that these amazing frequencies showed themselves in the human cell was in the form of healing. So the first way we ever came to address that these were quantum frequencies that were somehow lifting vibrations, somehow causing a communication between vibratory cells, any living cells, was because I was going to work thinking I was just an ordinary everyday physiologist rehabilitating, patients.
Yeah.
And yet my patients were rehabilitating way fast.
Yes.
They were having spontaneous rehabilitation where they were being healed of issues, ailments, injuries, diseases, things that we didn't think could be healed, things that until I saw that myself, I would have told you was permanent or terminal or chronic.
Yeah.
And it raised a big question about who the freak show was that was doing this. That would be me. And also what the heck I was doing. And at the time, we're talking 15 years ago, I had no clue what I was doing, but I knew I could do it. And I knew I always had been able to do it. I was born with the ability to do it.
Yeah.
And I actually thought all through my childhood and all through this life, I thought everybody knew they could do it.
Oh, yes, we've had a couple of those things where we've gone astral traveling. Can't everyone do that? Like that's just one. There's like 3 or 4 different ones, which is quite amusing. So, how did you get from realizing that not everyone can do it because they just look at you strangely and walk back away slowly? And how did you? What was the jump from the science, the mainstream science, to, dare I say, woo woo?
Look, it did go into the woo-woo. I have a background that was very left brain. I was military and science and, all math science and loved life at that point. Like the military side of it really shocks people to hear that I was in the military and did what I did in the military because it doesn't seem to fit at all what a healer would be. But in fact, that's where I became a teacher.
Yeah, also, sorry to interrupt, but it gives a bit of balance as well. Through the military stuff and for what you did, and also a hint of discipline, if I may.
Just a hint.
So, and also being in charge of people, there's like the command structure. You don't have to tell people, Jenkins, I'll just send you to your death. It's you can go stand. You can stand on stage and command in that way. So it's having you dial back the commanding aspect of it, so you can be entertaining instead of cranky.
Well,
that's the best way of doing it.
Well, the other side of it is when I am teaching this, and I do teach this all over the planet. When I'm teaching, I'm incredibly efficient. It's a really full-on course. Now, don't be scared by that.
No.
I'm not going to crack whips and tell you off, but what will happen is that I try and pack as much as I possibly can into the few days that people come and be under my guardianship to learn this ability. So that when they go away, they process all of that for many, many weeks afterwards. It unfolds. I effectively stick the little, condensed tablet in the water and let it fizz.
Yeah, throwing seeds. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
So
it's
can
made
people?
very-
Sorry, I really should let you finish a sentence. I'm used to my round tables. Like, yeah, you're waffling, you're rounding, but not you're not. You're not waffling, because I've got a point that I want to share, which is now people can get taught this, but everyone has this ability anyway, don't they? We're as a species we've forgotten it, or is it completely new? Or there's an element like you didn't have that block. You've actually were born going, oh, I can do this, and you're not special because everyone else can do it. What
That's right.
what you are special because you're waking people up to this power and ability.
Oh, I'm just a teacher.
Yeah.
I have a phenomenal ability, and you and I know that. You've known me for a long time. I have a phenomenal ability in healing. I'm sure I've been given this incredibly strong ability to help people heal themselves because I'm here to teach it. It's to grab the attention of the people that need to know they already have this within them. And but we should probably go backwards a little bit because we do know each other and we've jumped a lot of guns where people don't actually know what I do.
Yeah.
So beside me here is a book. Like you can,
and you're on it.
That's me on it. I brushed my hair more that day, a bit neater. But there's actually a new book coming out that, of course, it's the latest book. So I'm like, yeah, get that one. It's great because it's new and I've just finished it. But of course, at the moment, one of the things, and at the time that we're recording this, coronavirus is just starting to creep its way across the planet. The world is the human race is in panic. It can only be called panic at this stage. The timing of when we're doing this interview is fascinating too, because we will talk about viruses later for sure. Mm-hmm. What I work in is what we call quantum bioenergetics. Now, we've called it that because that's what it does. That's what it is, not because it's trademarked, not because it's special, not because it's a business name. Quantum bioenergetics is the use of quantum community frequencies used via any living cell to trigger that cell to rebalance itself, to bring it back to its most healthful and thriving living state.
Yeah.
So quantum bioenergetics, it works through biology to trigger the energetic exchange of the cell.
So by finding that balance, the cell knows what it unlocks, or it uses the information that's contained in that cell to regenerate in a certain way. Yeah.
It remembers to regenerate.
And so just very quickly, customers. I like saying customers because I'm used to saying listeners. It is frequency, and like when you walk into a room, sometimes you feel bad vibes and all that type of stuff. This is what's the word I'm looking for? It's related to that. That's the best way I think I can use it. Where this is vibration. We're all it's all about vibes, man, and that's what it is. And so this is using it in a healing form because I've done a couple of courses with Melissa, and finding your cushion is a straight
your favorite.
Well, you can do. So I know you sort of trigger the hand where you can. Is it initiate the hand, not triggered, but
that's what we call it.
Yeah. What I do is you put your hands out like that, and for anyone on audio, I'm sticking my hands about 10 centimeters apart, and you just think energy, and then the inside of your hands start to react differently. I've done this for a couple of times where it's like, just think of a box from fingertip to fingertip, thumb to thumb, and then just put energy in there, and you do that for about 10, 20 seconds, and then you try and clap. And it's interesting to see how people do it because they do it and there's something in the way, only briefly, and they go, oh, and then I've had other people sort of ignore that and just try and clap. Because look what I did. It's like, yeah, but did you feel there's resistance? And so for me, that's sort of my triggering thing of to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, you've taken a step into a far more advanced world.
Well, one of the ways that we know that this works in quantum effect beyond energy as we know it is that it actually gets stronger with distance as well. And that was really the defining moment where we realized we're working in a level of quantum dimensionality rather than just an energetic exchange. But the beauty of these frequencies being so complex as they are is they do have an electromagnetic presence. Like you just said, we can actually create sensation and palpable magnetic field that gives us response. And that's actually how we came to, or how I came to teach the quantum bioenergetic balancing technique, the healing process that we use in QBI healing, because we were able to actually feel through the magnetic field that we could create under frequency where the imbalances were in the body, where the actual injury, disease, source of disease or source of ailment can be found in the body, and bring it back to balance. Fascinating when you've got someone on the table treating them, that it's often not at all what you would expect. Like if you don't know anything about a human body or anything about its physical structure, the physiology, the anatomical structure, you don't need to. As you run your hand over that body that's on the table, your hand instrumental will be pulled to where it needs to go most.
Yeah.
And we actually engage that, as you mentioned before, through the thinking. We actually use the intent as a switchboard in the subconscious mind to enable the instrumentation of the hand so it can do that. It's as I said, everyone can do this. The way I'm describing it sounds complex, but when you feel it, you'll know it.
Yeah.
The moment you feel it, it all makes sense to you. It all comes back.
Yeah, I'm gonna sort of branch off now, because a good point of like the patient or client that's on the table. The only time you any physical touch is to it's the end of the session. You put your hand on the shoulder and say, "This is me," and you bring him back, because who knows where you go. I don't leave, of course. I'm special.
Stubborn.
Yeah. However, it is the permission that they give themselves to find that balance and heal themselves. Now, what I'm going to get into is Team Dark. I'm doing it at bunny ears. They've manipulated that, because you've known stories of a doctor said to a person, "You have 3 months to live," and that person dies 3 months later. It's the power of the mind, and then you've other people saying no, and 21 years later they've got 4 kids and they've survived everything and they're moving forward because they didn't believe the person wearing a white coat. It's interesting to see where the manipulation of that mind virus, maybe, I don't know, it's the mind control or the whatever, however you want to explain it, is because we're told we've got limitations, people believe it. And is that? I found a question. Is that part of the teaching? Is allowing people to realize, no, you can do this. You can be good at this. Underlying saying, you're a God creator spirit, and anything is possible. You don't open with that, of course. People get freaked out and especially, I get chairs thrown at me. But you would have seen a lot of people have amazement of like, wait a minute, my elbow, that's perfect. Stories like that.
It's funny how, like, I think increasingly, and maybe this is me being hopeful. I've been doing this for a long time. I've met a lot of people around the planet, but I think increasingly in the recent couple of years, as we're seeing vibration lift on the planet, as we're seeing great shift occur on the planet, more and more people are beginning to understand that this vehicle that we're walking around in, this physical human body that we're walking around in, is a vehicle that we're looking through.
Yeah.
Whether you understand what is the whole of you, whether you understand the whole of spirit or the whole of presence, or whether you are spiritual, you believe in God, or whether you want to just go with Gus, which is God, the universe and source, and just keep it nice and generic, so you're right either way.
Yeah.
Or whether you believe in nothing, I think even someone that believes at an atheist level, there is more to the presence of the individual than the physical cells that we're walking around in. Increasingly, we're starting to understand that the brain is not the mind. The brain is a tool. And when we start to understand it as a tool, as an instrument, we start to understand that thinking are the gears that we're using in that brain. And so, thinking does make it so. And we see that in lots of, a couple of years ago, Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, a lot of great individuals put out a collective, documentary called Heal, which is pretty much about the biology of belief. Bruce Lipton is one of my favorite people on the planet. I just adore him. An awesome cellular biologist. And of course, his book is called Biology of Belief, or one of his books is called Biology of Belief. Very much thinking is instrumental in what you can create for yourself. You need to start to understand that thinking is your paintbrush. Thinking is the pen you're writing the narrative with. And the more you can control the thoughts and what you allow yourself to hold as a thought, the much better off you are in the instrument that you're walking around in. But it's not the be all and end all. I mean, I'll have people come in that are non-believers. Absolutely. They think I'm an idiot. They've only come in because their wife has made them, things like that. And still, I don't need their permission. I don't need their belief. I don't even need their knowing. They will still have an spontaneous, if not phenomenal, healing in the session. That alone tells you there's more to what's happening here.
Oh, well, yeah, you've got higher awareness, the subconscious, and it could be part of the journey that they've wanted. Just going back a little bit about the power of thinking, certain pharmaceutical companies have stopped sharing their tests with the placebo effect, because the placebo effect has done better than their actual medicine that they're trying to get out there.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's the power of belief.
Interestingly, in our own research, because we've done our own research, of course, to try and, you can imagine me coming from a very left brain background, coming into this extreme crossover between science and spiritual and all that is unknown and all that's occurring. Caught in the middle of all of that. You can imagine I'm still got this little scientist back in here going, can we just do some research, see if we can find out what the hell's going on? And since then, since I've started pushing that, we've actually had a number of papers published in scientific journals around the world with the incredible results that we've had. But our studies have been triple blinded. We've had full controlled studies where we've had control group, placebo, as well as people under session, used me as the sole and singular instrument that conducted the sessions on the hundreds of participants.
And I was one of them.
You were. That's how we met, wasn't it? Through one of the research chapters a long time ago. But I'm still working on him, everyone. He's still I've still got
my shields up. Yeah, that was fun.
But through our research, the results that we had sort of control group was nice and level, placebo group was nice and level, which was fascinating. And then the sessions were through the roof, like exponential curves just going up. And then we had sort of bonus research where we had these bonus healings. We were targeting, like the most recent chapter we did, I targeted depression, and nobody wanted me to do it. Like all the scientists, all the researchers, everyone working with me, the universities and tertiary institutions backing the study, didn't want me to target depression too hard. Oh my God, we're going to get no results. It's going to be awful. But it's the fastest growing disease on the planet. And I figured, let's hit that. Sure enough. So that was the directive. The only people that knew that was the directive was myself and the head of research. No one else knew. We absolutely triple blinded everything. And the results were through the roof. Like for depression, it was amazing. But on top of that, people had bonus healings. Lower backs were better. People didn't need eyeglasses anymore. People didn't need. There was like all these bonus healings that were fascinating. We started documenting them too.
Well, it makes sense because if you're in a lower vibration where you, now I'm not making it trivial, but on a certain level, the depression's a choice, if that makes sense, where it can be reinforced because it's very hard to get out of that loop. I've been there myself, and I'm not a good one to try and help people because I've got the thing of like, oh, it's easy. I keep forgetting what it was like while in that loop. I'm on the outside of the loop of like, oh, yeah, it's fine once you figure it out. Yeah, once you figure it out.
It is a dark, slow spiral. So it's, it's very hard.
Yeah, you start to spiral, and then you can throw in no, you're awesome. And then that not triggers, but the depression, the programming / demon, however you want to describe it, kicks in. It's like, he's lying. You're not awesome at all. It's like, and you can collapse like that. So it's fascinating. I'm wondering if that's part of I'm calling it the change because someone's taken the event, but there's earth changes and we're on the earth. With the Schumann resonance going nuts, as we sort of spoke recently, where the higher frequency of the Schumann resonance, the lower frequencies cannot exist in the same thing because of just natural lower frequencies can't fit into a high frequency because of the structure. And I just thought of Robin Williams where you have to deal with your shit. uh, from a spiritual point of view. But it is, in a way, that's part of the cleansing. And that's why I think we're seeing people lose their minds, is because if they're not aware of the shift, they're feeling it, especially in our linear time from this interview. The last weekend, my birthday weekend, I'm 16 again, thank you. The Schumann resonance was peaking and making all these lovely shapes, as well as a full moon. And the term lunatic comes from the full moon because it's lunar. And once again, I found let me ramble enough. I'll get to a question. How can when there is a full moon, what does that do to the magnetic energetics of the planet, and why do people start freaking out? Is it the boost in the electromagnetic, or is it just magnetic, or what do you see?
It's well documented through many centuries that the full moon would, that's why lunatics were called lunatics. It's a full given, and you'll find in any hospital record or anywhere that it is on the full moon that they have a lot more admissions into emergency than any other night. And so the electromagnetics and the moon that we just had, you're talking about the weekend just gone where the Schumann resonance is going nuts. We've got coronavirus, just I'm trying to think of the right words, but it's pretty much just rampaging across the planet right now. And then we had the full moon, which was actually a super moon as well. I think there's only 2 this year of those.
Yeah, I just imagine the moon wearing a cape. That's why I laughed. Super moon. Go ahead, sorry.
But extra big appears extra close to the planet and extra magnetics. Now, of course, we are electromagnetic beings. We exist in a state of vibration. And of course, the brain is well known for its electromagnetic transfers, its neurotransmitters, its electromagnetic fields. We now know an awful lot about the electromagnetic field around the heart itself as well, that it's gigantic. So it has its own effect from such a thing as well, from moon and solar flares and Schumann resonance going off the Richter, and we have all these things, and all of these things were happening in the past 48 hours.
Andrew Bartas actually pointed out there's an element of the brain type of stuff with the digestive tract as well, which makes sense because that's pure health.
I absolutely believe the liver also has its own brain. The liver is equally, if not more fascinating than the heart. The heart is something spectacular. It's just an amazing, amazing being. But the liver is so complex and so dense. For sure, it has its own neurological structure in there as well. That is effectively a brain, effectively a memory. Like, we know that there's at least 40,000 neurons in the heart. I'm sure we would find that in the liver. I would really encourage Heart Math, if you're listening, guys, get in there. I've messaged them quite a few times saying, how about we look into the liver as well? Can you?
Liver Math for its own page. It's like Heart Math, Liver Math. It probably explains why alcohol is prevalent, so like dumbing down the liver, because it's like, I know how to. Hang on, I've got to process all the alcohol, you swine.
Of course, the great work by Anthony William, who is the conduit for, he's medical medium. He's lots of his books are out now, and he is the conduit or the channel for a particular spirit that has brought so much genuine wisdom as to the human body's health and how it can transpire. And he has a book that is called Liver Rescue, is absolutely about the importance of liver health above pretty much everything else. And it's quite amazing. I can't recommend that enough too. Just to clarify, you were talking about Andrew Bartas, the galactic historian. Was that the gentleman? Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Terrific guy.
Yes. It's interesting. Check out his history of the galaxy and what's been going on Earth. And you thought, intense Doctor Who subplots were like fascinating. He goes back 50 million years with timelines and everything else. Lemuria and Mu, Atlantis. That's like the final stage before this one. Goes way back. So be careful of that rabbit hole. But if you like a good story, it's a fantastic story.
If you like a good trip, jump down that rabbit hole, I say.
Well, see, now, humanity in a way has forgotten that we have this ability to heal ourselves, and we're supposed to.
Let's be really honest with your listeners and your viewers and your customers.
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently.
I stole that. Yeah, well, no, I stole that from a guy from a game show from the 1950s on the ABC. He always referred to, I think it was the ABC. He always referred to the viewers as customers. And my plan is to get monetization, and there's ads, and people should look at the ads. So, and it's customary that I should make money.
We actually had the discussion about why this has come back. So prior to this, one of the reasons we decided to do this interview is because we had the discussion about the fact that people had forgotten. Somewhere along the way, the human race lost sight of the fact that they had this incredible ability. But vibratory medicine isn't new to the human race at all. We know, and Greg Braden has unveiled in recent times, Greg Braden's unveiled some pretty amazing discoveries about Mayans and how they used vibratory communication, and at very much a quantum level. Of course, he's got to be one of the best I don't know if he's acknowledged as a historian or I don't know, but he's amazing at discovering the depths of the history of the human race. He's amazing at unveiling and he's come up with some fantastic and fascinating elements where we know that we did know this ability millennia ago. Yeah. We know that it's more than likely, if you're a fan of Christianity, it's pretty likely Jesus was using something like this. Yeah. It's, you can go to any of the great prophets and teachers that we learn from and listen to this day, the Buddha, Jesus, the greats, and they have worked at a quantum communicative level. Because this is a quantum communicative level, while it's shown it to us initially as an incredible healing ability that we all have, as I've worked with this process over the last 15 years, longer, it has shown itself in so many ways. It's expanding in its communication. It's expanding in its multidimensional recognition in terms of our ability to be able to see it and to work with it and work through it. So the process of healing itself remains phenomenal, literally phenomenal. It is quite amazing what it does. As we've gone on, we've learnt how to use it more and more efficiently and effectively for various diseases, problems, and I'm going to say viruses. Yes, this does work on viruses. There are a lot of people that would call themselves healers and gurus and all that sort of people around the world that work in these same frequencies. There are some greats and there's some not so greats that people follow. Yeah. But all of them work in the same frequency, but not all of them are working in the same integrity. And so one of the things...
There's intent, isn't there?
Yeah.
With the healing is intent, because if you... there is an energy exchange, like you do sessions and someone pays you. There's that energy exchange, which strangely enough in the universe of energy, that makes sense. However, it's you come with an integrity and intent where it's to help people. And so you're giving energy, and the money used as a talisman is given back. And you can you would know, you don't have to say who they are, because that's not cricket. But you would see someone that's had a peak of being successful, and then their ego kicks in. It's like, I'm a rock star, and then they're not making any more money because they're not actually following the light, if I can put it that way, where they want to...
It's easy to identify. Yeah. I mean, look for the ones that have slapped a trademark or a license on it that you can't use it without their certificate or their registration, or that's rubbish. This gift is yours. You have always been able to use it. You have always had the ability to heal yourself at a phenomenal level, and not just at the physical level, but at the very many levels and very many dimensions. Even karmically, we can dance into this. And so this work over the last couple of decades has drifted into all elements of spirituality, all elements of healing. I've worked on dirt floors in Indonesia with some of the most fascinating and incredibly effective healers I've ever met in the world. And then at the same time, I've been in lounge rooms with Pleiadian light workers that have shown me a whole other range of work through various forward dimensions. And working through the grid work through the dimensions. And then it takes me to sitting down with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and then it takes me to sitting down with an oncologist in New York to discuss why on earth he's still prescribing a chemotherapy that no one's used for 20 years because it's toxic. So, it comes in all ways and forms. And I'm very fortunate that I get to cross all of those lines in the hope to get everything the individual that comes before me needs, so that they can do what they need to do. I will say I don't call myself a healer. I don't like the term healer, but it's the easiest way for me
Yeah.
to explain what I do. But one of the reasons I don't like to say, oh, I'm a healer, is because it immediately puts the onus on me and not on them, on
Yeah,
the person
yeah.
asking for help.
They get
And
they give
so
permission to you instead of permission to themselves.
the minute they hand over that responsibility, we have a challenge. The
Yeah,
minute that they're not willing to own that this is their path.
yeah,
And so it's just, I was joking the other day in an interview about the various ways someone can say no when I say, are you ready for this change? Are you ready for this healing? Are you ready to regain
yeah,
your life and actually thrive inside it now?
yeah.
And then there's so many versions of no, it's just not funny. You either say yes or I've tried everything. Well, we'll see if this works too, shall we? It's just so many versions of no.
It's a closed question, A
It
or B.
no.
Yeah. Now, like with your course, when someone graduates or they get a piece of paper, but you referred to them as facilitators instead of healers because they're facilitating that scene or the possibility, or what's the word, right word? Where,
Environment.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, they create the environment where the person on the table decides to change. Now it's just not physical. It could be emotional and spiritual, karmic. Like that's why I giggle, but I'm sort of slightly upset because people drift away. Like I remember one course, a gentleman, you had to bring him back because he was way out there. Yeah, it's like I don't want to go. No, let me. However, people even lying on the table, they see colourful mosaics like a kaleidoscope and everything else like that. Me and you just talk while you're just tweaking. I feel like I'm a Studebaker. But I'm like, that fix that, change the frame. But I think from my journey, that's how. Like for me, this is retirement in a certain way. So I do all my work when I'm asleep, and because I do mention your stories where I apparently take you time traveling in the astral. And you have to take a sick bag, and you have to take a sick bag with you, because look, a wormhole. And I remember none of these, ladies and gentlemen. None. I have no idea.
Whenever you've done that, I actually will get physically nauseous. Like it's we're going down wormholes at such a rate that it's just, you love it.
Yeah.
Oh, ever since I gave birth to twins, I've just never left that morning sickness. I get nauseous so easy. Look, there is, and that's one of the reasons why I just had to address. So maybe we should go back again and talk about how on earth I came to recognize I'm here to pass this on, because I was in my late 20s before I finally owned the fact that I'm here to do this work. And I had to just slap myself and just wake up. Yes, it's scary. Yeah, everyone's going to think you're woo-woo and you're nuts. People are going to call you all sorts of names and accuse you of being mentally ill, of all sorts of diagnosis. And
but on the flip side of that is you've had the experiences of people healing all the way, because that's what triggered you. It's like, hang on, that as a fake example, that leg grew back, or, tendons and stuff like that, where it's like that's healed way too fast than usual, because you were working with muscles and rehabilitation, and it took shorter than usual. And so you've had that
even as
affirmation all the way through.
I think about 5 days ago, I had a client text me and say that she had some sort of neck injury, bad headache, all sorts of things are going on. She had a pinched nerve and arm was hurting and everything. And I tuned in to work on her remotely. I was nowhere near her. I wasn't looking at her. And I tuned in and said to her, okay, listen, there's going to be a few cracks in your neck, and then all the pain's going to wash slowly away like I've cracked an egg on top of your head.
Yeah.
I said, the minute you feel that egg roll over you, it'll be gone. Mm-hmm. And she told me the next day when I actually saw her that that's exactly what happened. She couldn't believe it. Apparently, she just talked her husband's ear off because it was so exciting. And but I actually still, even with all that I've seen and the thousands of clients I've seen around the world, and the little 2-year-old in the slums of India that was blind, and then 30 minutes later she could see, and everything that I've seen around the world, I still love to hear that confirmation. I still love to. That's right. This works. It's
it's a bit of a stand-up comic type of thing. Yeah.
So,
Now interesting thing is that in a way you're the tip of the spear, your forefront, because you've been doing it for 15 years. As I keep saying, you're not Jesus, you need disciples, because you can't save 7 billion people, but you can share the idea. So that's where the courses come in. So, and you can share information, everything else like that. Question that I'm sure someone may be thinking: can you self-heal? Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because like obviously you
I'm
can help
excited
tweak.
about the, oh yeah, because excuse me, oh yeah, yeah, the self-healing processes that we've developed are fantastic, if I say so myself. Like all the time I'm looking to develop more efficient tools, more effective ways to use this, better ways that we can use this physical instrument of the body to transfer these frequencies more efficiently. But you can imagine that the first place we have to start is to rebalance the self. We're no use to anyone if we can't take care of us. If we're falling apart, what use are we to anyone else anyway?
Yeah.
And so it's even if all you want to help is your family or your loved ones, or you're working in a dog shelter or anything like that, then you still have to take care of you first. The processes that we now have in self-healing are so good, and we have some brilliant versions of it. One of the things I will say, and I will see if I can extend it, I'll just write this down. If you actually go to QBI Healing, you'll see at the front page there's a pop-up where you put in your email address and you get a link to go to a free self-healing course. It's a free, what we call the Mudra self-healing. It's one that you can use anywhere, anytime, for the rest of your life, as many times as you like.
Yeah.
And it's about to be monetized. The powers that be in QBI Healing don't like that I'm offering that for everyone for free.
Yeah.
And so it's about to be monetized. They're about to start charging. I think it's going to be $75 to do that, to actually do that particular course. My advice to you is go to it. Go and grab it now. It's free. I'll see if I can extend it for another week before they take that free pop-up down, because it's quite the argument in-house about that one.
Well,
it shows very much that as I head up QBI Healing, I very much want everyone to know they can do this for themselves. And if all you ever do is that little mudra self-healing that I teach, it's like an 8-minute online thing. If all you ever do is that, that's brilliant. That's a great one. That's a great one for all sorts of things, to help you sleep, to help make you feel better, to calm your anxiety, to lift some of the dark of the depression. No, it's not going to be as powerful as getting on the table and having a full session with a facilitator, but it is a great one to start with. We have other self-healing processes where it's a full immersion process. We now actually run a balancing technique process where we actually effectively run oh my goodness, it's an assessment tool effectively, really, that runs over the body and points to the imbalances and actually accelerates the vibration in them during the process of the self-healing. Very, very cool. It's almost like a plate of glass goes over you. It's very cool. We have
I remember you teaching a couple of, you just run your hand up and down like a scanner, like, because I'm from the sci-fi world. Your arm's the scanner.
This is one when you're on the table or you're on your bed and you actually checked out and you run it through. It's really cool. But the latest one, and the one I'm excited about and no doubt the rest of the planet needs to know about quickly, is the self-healing process with a viral protocol. Viruses are very different to any other imbalance in the body. A virus is something that is a life force unto its own within the body.
It's conscious in a certain way, isn't it?
Of its own making, yes. And we're seeing more and more of these come about on the planet that are remarkably intelligent. We're seeing as permafrost is melting and glaciers are breaking away, viruses that have been dormant for millennia are now being revived. And so we're seeing things that have been, static for many, many thousands of years, reawakening, where there are species on the planet that have really no facility or capacity to deal with them. Not yet. We will adapt, because that's what you do. We live in a state of vibration. We will entrain to the environment.
It's very human. Yeah. Humans adapt to everything.
So, of course, we've got this coronavirus that has been unleashed upon the planet, and it's right now is the time. So I was actually just discussing with the operations manager about how we're going to rapidly get the viral protocol self-healing out to all that need it, because we've only just refined it to the point that we're ready to teach it. And then the coronavirus has happened. And so
interesting enough is because we've had chats, and most people I've spoken to, something feels off. I don't know what that off is, but something feels off with the whole thing. And for
The
whatever,
coronavirus.
the coronavirus
Yeah.
feels off. Now, trying to find positives, which is an interesting statement, but finding positives in it, the authorities are being exposed because they suck, technical term, and the way that the media is pumping out the fear. My question is, how much of the fear is actually contributing to this, not the spread, but from a health point of view? Because if you're in a lower frequency in fear, there's more chance of it coming in. Because the mortality rate's very low, but apparently the media's, it's basically Stephen King's The Stand. We're all going to die. And it's like, yeah, but again. So
I was
how
actually
can you
very
see?
in an interview earlier this morning, I was very sarcastically saying in that interview, but bear in mind, everyone, excuse my sarcasm, but I was saying we really need to put out some sort of award to the marketers because they finally got it right. They tried so hard with the bird flu, with SARS, with Ebola, with measles. They've finally got the marketing mix right. The fear mongering is finally working for them. And it's so we need to give the award to the marketers that finally got the words in the right place. But what the media is doing with this, I mean, every news channel you listen to, even those that you might think have more integrity, that aren't operating from a place of fake news or whatever else. God, I hate using that term. But all of them, their opening story is coronavirus. Italy is shut down, and people, it's all about so many people have died now. They're not actually saying, he was 95 and had a heart condition, and this gentleman was, there's predisposed. They're not actually, the people have died.
Well, doesn't the flu actually just your average flu? I sound very Australian. Just your average flu, but the flu has killed more than the coronavirus in the same amount of time or something. Like
different flu seasons have had different reactions, but I mean, we had a couple of really bad flu seasons in the last 2-3 years. We've seen a lot of people go down with influenza, and one of the things that again, I was speaking to someone else again this morning that they were saying, the same interview. Lady was saying that she recently took her 81-year-old mother to the doctor, and the doctor said your mother should get the flu vaccine. And I said, actually, for me, I wouldn't do it. Yeah. And I said I wouldn't do it. And the doctor's theory was at least she'd have some resistance to the corona and to the coronavirus, which is caused an influenza. And no, she wouldn't, because it's a different vaccine. And the coronavirus, as is commonly known, is a synthetic virus. That's actually a patented virus that was constructed, synthetically. Yeah. And so it's not your natural everyday.
Well, Well, the thing is, people mainly don't die from the coronavirus itself. It's very similar to AIDS and HIV, isn't it? The main virus attacks the immune system, and then someone coughs. It's usually a secondary thing that takes the person out, from my understanding. Where it's the other health. The other health problems are expanded or exacerbated because the coronavirus just works on the immune system, and if you're weakened, anything can happen. That's a good way of saying it. Yeah. That's
right. When the immune system's being suppressed while it's trying to fight something else, other things can get hold as well. Yeah. But this virus does actually cause similar or almost identical, in fact, to the SARS virus. It does cause damage to the lungs, where the lungs effectively do get kind of eaten away. They end up with patches of damage. And that's actually how they started to identify the coronavirus much earlier in its identification, because they started doing chest x-rays and seeing, it's the same pattern that we saw in the SARS virus. Yes, this is corona. The problem that you have with that is there is lung damage. And so if it gets to that stage, if you get to a severe level, there is lung damage. And the problem that you have with that is when people actually get better, if it recurs too quickly, if they're not 100% and they go back to work and before they're ready to and everything like that, then they have a recurrence of the coronavirus. That's when you've got a real risk of mortality. Like but it has a similar mortality rate to any flu. It's affecting the same people, the elderly, the frail. And this particular virus seems to be affecting people of any Asian descent more than anyone else on the planet too.
Yeah, talking on the roundtable I do, Planet Collingwood, I explained there's two different numbers. There's the Chinese number, because the Chinese government's not really forthright now, are they? And you've got everywhere else. And the thing is, people from Asian descent seem to have it outside of China, but we're not seeing entire, like, say, Box Hill being, not every Asian person outside of China is collapsing. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's a strange balance, or it's because it started there. I mean, there's doomsayers that saying that the Team Dark, the Cabal, are trying to take over the planet by killing everybody. Well, they released it in China. Look at all the stringent security forces and infrastructure. If you want to, now I'm not giving any ideas away, people, but if you want to do that, you do that in Africa, because they don't have any infrastructure or border control. So it's you just start seeing the numbers, but I think we're at the point now, and correct me if I'm wrong. People, just one person interacts with a crowd, and then it starts to spread that way. There was a guy at a Tool concert apparently in Auckland that turned out he had it, and so this is adding to the fear, because the media's like, death, famine, AIDS type thing. However, if you're standing next to someone, it doesn't guarantee you'll get it, but you should be wary of it.
It has a slow incubation as well.
Yeah.
So you could be exposed to someone and not start to show any symptoms or feel any effects, if you're going to feel any effects, for 14, 16 days. And that's a long time. I mean, there was a doctor here in Melbourne that tested positive for it. And all he had, now this is a gentleman that was 70, he came back from a flight, and he had a scratchy throat, bit of a runny nose, was feeling a bit tired. That was about it. He didn't feel like he had a full-blown flu. He didn't feel like he even had a cold. He just felt like he had a small virus that wasn't much of a concern. And then about 5 days later did a swab, and to his surprise and horror, it swabbed positive for coronavirus.
Yeah.
And in that time, he had seen patients in his own clinic. He had been around all sorts of people. He'd gone into nursing homes with his work. Now, this is a man also that is 70 years old. And yes, he's a working doctor and everything. So it's a man that was in the older end of the human race. And even then, an untreated case of coronavirus didn't have a whole lot of symptoms or effects. Let's bear in mind, too, that we're not seeing this man in ICU. He's still walking around. And in fact, he's, very public at the moment, because he's fighting the fact that the public health minister has tried to make him a villain.
Well, see, the people are
if he is unwell, but
it's the people are taking whatever's going on to their advantage. The like, be wary of a politician where I never get the statement right, but a crisis is too good of an opportunity to waste. And so they use it. So, like, I've argued for many times on the round table where was it released or accidentally released? And it's like, it doesn't really matter at this point in time. If it was even accidentally, people are still using it to their thing, to their advantage. Well, what I find interesting,
global economy bombed out.
But this is a trigger point for the economy was going to do this anyway, because it's just toxic derivatives and it's mathematically going to do it. What I find interesting, this is why I think it was an accidental release, is that the people who think they're in charge are freaking out. And so all their plans have either been moved up or they're adapting their plans to try and control humanity. And then you have the way it's, comedic mind. You have to look at, observe these weird things where apparently the coronavirus, where there's phlegm and mucus and coughing. Clearly, I need to buy more toilet paper.
Yeah.
It's just, like, I've seen a meme where it's like 50% of Australians with toilet paper, and it's a crowd running towards something. I think it's from a music festival or something like that. And then the other half of Australia is Ice Cube going, what? It's like, it's just really weird, where hand sanitizer and toilet paper. In Sydney, in Woolworths, 2 women have been arrested because they nearly got into a knife fight over toilet paper.
Oh my God.
And it's just ridiculous. Where now, I think they've had that first wave, and in a way that insanity will pan itself out, because a lot of people have bought a lot of toilet paper. You're fine. And so, like, people who need toilet paper, like me, in about a month, I'll leave the house and go buy some. So,
Yeah, that's right.
yes.
Look, it's one of the first things that confused me was why toilet paper. But I was actually on a
Yeah.
panel. I was on a panel a few days ago, and a psychologist on there was saying that it's because toilet paper is large. It's because it's visual and it's big, and so they're frantically trying to get the big multi packs, like they're.
Yep.
And he said to have a lot of those stocked in your house, you feel safer. You've got a visual that says I've got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And he said it's like, and I said to me it's I said, because on this panel when I was speaking to this gentleman, I said I went into my health food store and ironically bought Chinese herbs because in terms of viruses and Chinese herbs are a brilliant, millennia of wisdom are in there. Yes. And so I bought Chinese herbs thinking, okay, well, if something's going to hit any of my children or I and we're a bit run down, better have some stocks just to make sure. It's a bit early in the season. We haven't really hit flu season or the winter season in the southern hemisphere yet. But what fascinated me is they had absolute abundant stock of all sorts of vitamins, anti-cold, antivirals, all sorts of great stuff, and they had heaps. And this is what you would expect. This is probably what should be running off the shelf.
Yeah.
And even more so, things like, basic things like multivitamins and echinacea and garlic tablets and things that will boost your immune system so that you don't get sick. Preventative medicine, preventative health is really what should be rocketing off these shelves. And so I said to him, that was shocked me. That the toilet, the absolute where the crickets are creaking in the toilet paper aisle. There's nothing in there. But
what I find interesting is, you need to wash your hands. You need hand sanitizer. You need to do this and this and this. And I'm thinking, oh, you mean Tuesday? Because it's all this stuff that, just
a demo there.
Melissa was using her hands to wash her hands for those on the audio.
Wash your fingertips and under your nails, everyone.
But everything, it's like, to protect yourself from the coronavirus, do this, this, and this. It's like, shouldn't you be doing that already? Like, cover your mouth when you cough. And, I'm from the 20th century. We used to do that. You had a hanky and you cough and you wash your hands instead of everything. And it's just amazing. Everyone's like, you people haven't been washing your hands for decades. What's wrong? It's really weird. Like, going back to where a positive side is.
Children. I saw an article, like a headline on one of the reports saying, how to explain coronavirus to your children. And I thought, you haven't really sat down and said to the kids, okay, this is how it works. So I've sat down and said to my children, I have 5, and I've sat down and said to my children, all right, so you need to wash your hands every time before you eat, and every time you go to the toilet. And I said, and I just want you to stay clean and just remember, well, more than we already do.
Yeah, because you've taught them well.
I always do that. That's right. Keep going. You're doing great. Yeah. So, all right, my work is done. But at the same time, I like my kids getting, like, as they've grown up as little toddlers and little moppets and all the rest, I love them getting dirty. I love them getting out there in the dirt and playing with the bugs and playing with things. And that's built their immune system as well.
Yeah, strangely enough, it's because that actually builds the immune system, because the human is adapting to the environment. What I find fascinating is, I'm going to mention vaccines. The people aren't allowing their kids to play in the dirt, and then they give 37 vaccines by the age of 4, and they wonder why they're sick. It's because the immune system's been bombarded before it can actually take hold and or adapt to, I'm sure we've eaten dirt, and even if in our 20s where we've gone camping or something, or even with working in the military, your mouth opens and there's dust. You don't plan on doing it. You don't have a 3-course meal, like, dust, and then I'm going to have some dirt, and I think I'll have some muddy water for dessert. Stuff goes in. I realized this morning I have a very good nose, because the amount of crap I get out of it in the morning Like, obviously, I need an air evaporator or something, or a carbon scrubber or something. But it's like I go to bed clean, wake up, like someone's pushed a hay bale up there. So I'm sharing again, aren't I? It's like, oh yeah, it's people say don't pick your nose, but if I don't, I won't. Eventually, I won't be able to breathe. I have to. There has to be some cleaning involved. I'm
Look,
sorry.
I'm not a lady when it comes to sneezing. I've always been a loud sneezer, but when I sneeze, it's one sneeze and I clear the olfactory.
Yes.
I just poo.
Yeah, but you aim for
up there is out.
Yeah, I'm sure you aim for your hands or a Kleenex or sorry, I'm not sponsored by them, a tissue or a hanky, but you don't sort of sneeze and bless the room with your. Yeah, there you go.
And
yeah, exactly.
And with coronavirus and e-viruses, and we're going to see a lot going around the planet over the next 10, 15 years before we really get this nailed. But with that, sneeze into your elbow, cough into your elbow. If you're sick, wear a mask.
Yeah.
So that you don't spread it. Take self-responsibility. It's so
I had a small routine for if I go back to stand up, because I catch buses a lot to take my stepdad to physio, and near the Asian suburbs, and I find it fascinating. When they're healthy, they wear a mask, but when they get sick, they just bless the whole bus. Not so much now because of the coronavirus, but before that. It was just a strange observation of people coughing and everything else. Like, shouldn't you be wearing a mask? Or the thinking is, well, the mask didn't work and I'm sick, so I'm going to help everyone. Yeah, it's just a comedic observation. Now we're coming up to the end of the hour. Okay. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We've probably got 5-6 minutes, but I know how we try and end a conversation. Week 2, still trying to say goodbye.
No, I can finish this for us. Listen, if you need to find more, you need to get in touch with me or anyone on the amazing tribe that is QBI Healing. And I've got to tell you, I've got the best people that work at QBI Healing. They're just the most awesome individuals. Go to QBIHealing.com. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can find me as an individual on all of those things too. And you can contact us through any and all of those vehicles as well.
I'll be putting a link in the bottom, in the description, and on the radio as well. I do that, so it's symbiotic thing. You come on, you help me out, and we still have to talk sponsorship, but that'll be off air.
Look, no, not a problem. But look, and thanks for having me and for sharing, and particularly because we knew this was going to be a bit frustrating because of viruses and coronas and things that are going on around us, but it's also because people need to hear about it. So thanks for the opportunity to help us help more people.
Well, yeah, that's the thing where, I've done my mission of waking people up. I'm here to just share ideas and make them laugh. And we didn't even get into the Schumann resonance and what's happening spiritually or whatever's happening, where the split and all this type of stuff.
Let's do another show on the axial initiation.
Well, see, yes,
because then we can really get into that.
Yes, because I've forgotten what that is. So yes, that's a perfect slide. Remember, so part 2 coming soon.
I will leave you here.
Excellent. So yes, thank you for watching and listening, everyone. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, and share. If you do comment, be nice. And if you're listening to the podcast, force everyone you know to listen to it. I said that out loud. Anyway, that was the Monty Dean Show. She's Melissa. I'm Monty. You're awesome. And we'll be back soon. I have no idea what's happening next week, but, I live in the past. No, I don't. I live in the future. See, I can't even finish. We'll be back soon.